41% of adults say they don't feel confident managing their own money. That's not a small number. That's nearly half the country. And here's the thing. Most people aren't struggling because they're lazy or they're irresponsible. They're struggling because no one taught them the habits that actually lead to financial stability. So over series 1 of the podcast, we've spoken to millionaires, creators, founders, and financial experts. And we went back and we've pulled out the most rewatched, most underlined, most talked about clips from those conversations. This video, it's the 7 habits that are quietly keeping people broke. Habits that are invisible when you're in them, but crystal clear once you know what to look for. So let's dive in. You talk so much about money, and I loved reading books of yours. I've loved watching your content. What are the 3 money lessons that people need to know? Like, compound interest is obviously something that people talk about a lot, but never really put to use. What are the 3 lessons that young people need on money right now?
Okay, I'll give you my new formula for riches, which I'll be writing in my next money book. So this is hot off the press for you.
Yeah.
So I believe the formula for riches is inflation plus X times L times C.
Explain.
The fundamental rule, if you want to make money, is you have to beat inflation first.
Mm-hmm.
And no one's teaching that. Because if you put your money in the bank, why are interest rates 5, but Barclays will only give you 1.6 in interest? And why is inflation really over 5? Because it's been 30% since lockdown, but they're telling you it's less than 3. Because that's how the banks make money out of you.
Mm.
So you've got to really make 5% a year on your money to beat inflation with a bit of change left. So rule number 1 is beat inflation by X. So either start a company and make more than 5% a year extra growth and profit, or invest in gold or silver, or the S&P 500 or the FTSE 100 or real estate, etc. Things that have been proven over 1,000 years to beat inflation. That's step 1. Step 2 then is leverage. So you can become a millionaire by beating inflation by 2 or 3% over 30 years.
Yep.
But it's slow. Whereas leverage is borrowing the bank's money to start a business, borrowing the bank's money to invest in real estate, or getting a business partner where you're sales and marketing and their operations, and creating some force multiplication, looking to go viral on your content rather than just steady growth. Leveraging the internet to get global customers. That would be leverage, number 2. And then compounding is the C. So inflation plus X times L times C. Compounding is you have to do it long enough.
Yeah, be in the game.
Now, right, you have to be in the game. Now, I'm mentoring this guy. He's 19 years old. He's got all the hustle and energy you'd want of a 19-year-old. And he came to me and he's like, Rob, I'm thinking of starting a new business, should I? And I said, well, what's your experience? He said, well, I've run 3 companies. I said, that's good. I said, what's happened to them? He said, I folded them all. Yeah. I said, how long did you give each one? About 3 months. And he's like, I like his attitude in one way.
Yeah, yeah.
But like 3 months is not long enough.
Yeah.
You've got to give it 3 years or a decade. So you have to be in it long enough to gain compounding. So they're my 3 main money lessons. On a personal finance level, NSMTYE. Never spend more than you earn.
Basic lesson.
It's so basic.
Yeah. But how many people are in credit card debt who are buying useless shit?
Probably 99% of the population.
Yeah.
Even if you only save 1%, then 2%, then 3%, when you add leverage and compounding to that. So never spend more than you earn. That's one. That's a personal one. A business one. PYFPTL. Pay yourself first, pay tax last. When you're employed, here's what happens when you're employed. I don't know if anyone's old enough. Probably not. Not in this room. But those game shows, and they reveal what you could have won.
Yeah.
That's your fucking payslip. Here's what you could have earned. Oh, but after tax, national insurance, and your student loans, here's what you've got left. Fuck all. Because you pay the government first, and you don't have a choice, and you get what's left. There's nothing more demoralizing than thinking you earn 60 grand a year, which you think is 5 grand a month, and net is 2,200.
Yeah.
and then you see your rent is $1,200. There's nothing more demoralizing. The only way to reverse that is to start a company. And it can be a side hustle. And starting a company, you can delay paying the VAT for 3 months. You can claim a lot of the VAT back, and you can offset expenses to get your corp tax and your income tax down.
Yeah.
There's some rules.
The 19-year-old, I think, is symbolic of a problem with entrepreneurship right now.
Had 5 businesses.
Yeah. And obviously, my channels have taken off in the last 2 years. I've only posted content for 2 years. But before that, I've built businesses for a long time. And nowadays, I feel like the thing I'm asked for most on my channels is like, what's the hack? You know, like, what's the business? What's the quick one? And I'm always sat there thinking to myself, well, I'm not the guy, because I did 10 years in my first business and sold it. So what's my hack? It's compound your effort over time. That's my one real takeaway. And so whether it's like social media marketing agencies, crypto, AI, NFTs, I feel like everyone is looking for the thing that's just going to pump them crazy success. Whereas actually the 19-year-old, I reckon if they'd stuck to the first business and adapted and evolved it, you know, they're a couple of years in, they would see so much more success. But short-termism has become frightening for us.
I think it's human nature. They were doing it with the tulip mania.
Yeah.
In Holland, in what was that? Was that 1700s? I don't know, but tulip mania. It's human nature to look for a shortcut.
Yeah.
So in a way, if you want to know how to be successful, do the opposite of your emotions.
Mm. And then the point you raised about personal money, I think is just forgotten by the world. The idea that you shouldn't spend more than you earn feels so simple. I remember a moment I had with my, I'm not a spender at all. Like, I literally spend money on nothing. And I refuse.
Well, thanks for the water that you bought me there.
And that's
They're all like, you
that's
did
more
well.
than most.
Yeah,
that's more than most get. But like, I refuse to demonstrate to the world my success through like flamboyant acts of spending money. Like, I refuse to stand next to a really expensive car or jet to try and show that's how much money I have. But I remember this amazing moment in my life where, and there was a moment on Friends like this as well, where Monica and Chandler had been together for a while, and then they were coming up to their wedding, and she was like, oh, we haven't got any money. And he was like, oh no, I have this much. And Monica was like, oh shit. And I remember having that moment with my wife where I hadn't sold any companies. I just paid myself a decent wage for my own company for many years, but I hadn't spent anything. So by the time I got to 28, pre-selling my company, I remember saying to my wife, yeah, we can buy the house that you want. She was like, where would the money come from? I was like, because I fucking saved it. You know, I didn't spend money on shit the whole time. Like, I didn't try and act like I'm bigger than I am. Whereas I feel we live in this strange world where everyone just wants to pretend they're rich rather than be rich.
Yeah. Don't go broke trying to look rich. The quickest way to go broke is trying to look rich.
Yeah. Which is pathetic.
It's consumerism.
Yeah.
Because do you know some of the richest companies in the world are designer brands?
Cool.
Designer brands get rich making you broke.
Yeah.
So when you've got Balmain or Versace written on your t-shirt that you paid 500 for, who's the fucking mug? I know, because I was that guy.
Yeah.
Generally, the more labels someone's wearing, I think the lower their self-worth is.
Yeah.
And that was certainly me, and I've worn labels a lot when I was broke. I'm not against people wearing labels.
Well, you want, yeah. But
yeah, because also it might look good, and also they might be wealthy. And a lot of people are still flexing.
So, Sahil, how does the 5 types of wealth help people make small, actionable steps rather than getting overwhelmed?
Yeah. One of the reasons that people don't make progress in life is because they create this intimidation before starting. They see this enormous wall in front of them, and at the top of that wall is the life that they want, but they're standing at the bottom and they can't possibly imagine scaling that entire wall, so they just don't start. They feel hopeless, they feel lost. And one of the things that this book encourages you to do, and actually gives you the tactics to do, is to take the one tiny action today, just the one little step, lay the one foundational brick that may not help you scale the entire wall today, but if you do that over and over and over again, you will be able to scale that wall. Every single section of the book has a guide. So for each of the types of wealth, there's a guide at the end that is filled with the science-backed, proven, high-leverage systems to actually go and build that type of wealth in your life. And importantly, None of those systems are intimidating. You can actually get started on them today, this week. You can make a start on each of these types of wealth. And that was a big intention in putting together the book in the way that I did, and the structure that I did was, I want people to shrink their information action gap. When you think about the world, the most successful people in the world have a razor thin gap between when they consume information, when they learn something, and when they act on that learning, when they act on that information. Most of us that haven't made it in life have a big gap. We consume information, we feel all good, we get the dopamine hit, and then we don't do a damn thing about it.
Yep.
And so the whole goal is to say, I'm going to give you a lot of information, but now I want you to really shrink that down by making it very easy to get started. Shrink that information action gap, and your whole life changes.
What's the worst money habit to stop people reaching their wealth goals?
Not understanding what money means to them. I think so many people are so tied up with what society thinks money should mean that they don't actually take a step back to say, what do I want? What does wealth mean for me? What does my life goals look like? And then how do I align money to get there? And because they don't actually take a step back to figure that out, they're saving based on other people's milestones. They're spending based on what other people want. They're investing what everyone else is investing in. But I always ask people to take a step back and say, what do you want? Where do you want to be in 5 years, 10 years time? And is the way you're spending aligned to that?
My two favorite things that I've ever watched of yours, actually, just thinking about that, is you did a video on looking poor while building wealth.
Yeah.
And I was like, speaks so much to me. And then the other one was about the fact that every time that you get your pay, you should like predetermine an amount that you pay out beforehand. And I was thinking back, like when I was in my 20s, I did those things. Like I lived super within my means.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, like, if you can live with your parents, it's a bit annoying.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
I love you, mum.
Is it worth it? Yeah,
If she watches, you know. But if you can, like, you definitely should.
Yeah. Utilize the advantages that you have. I think different people have different advantages, and it's about creatively thinking, how can you, even if it is moving out or renting out or getting a mortgage at an early age, thinking about how you could still reduce that. Maybe it's renting out a spare room or sharing the cost with someone else. There's always creative ways to actually live below the cost that you're currently paying.
And so for someone starting from, you know, close to zero, what is the one like habit they can take on that will help them build wealth?
I say that the number one thing you should do is pay yourself first. So most people, as soon as the paycheck comes in, they pay for all the fundamental costs in their life, their housing, the rent, the groceries. Then they go and spend it on everything that they can spend it on, the socials, the restaurants, going out, going on holiday, and then they save whatever's left. But I always ask people to reverse that and pay yourself first. And the reason why this works so well is because of Parkinson's law. And the idea of it is that it applies to work. So work expands to consume all available time that you allocate to it. So if you want to finish a project in 2 days, or if you want to finish it in 2 months, it's going to pretty much take that amount of time. You're going to find a way to consume all available time. The same goes with spending. Your spending will expand to consume all available bank balance. The moment that you pay yourself first, you take out a portion of that paycheck as soon as it's come in, after you've paid your must-haves, you won't even know that that money's there, and you find a way to live on the rest.
And so what should people focus on? Should they focus on saving or investing first?
When it comes to where you should allocate your money as soon as it comes in, there's a priority checklist that I recommend. And typically you want to stay on each level before you move on to the next one. You start off with, you want to think about saving, and you want to save 1 month's worth of your living expenses.
Right.
Start off there. Is that actually mathematically optimal? No, but it's the psychological comfort. You're probably going to make more from that money putting it somewhere else. But the idea of just having that 1 month's living expenses saved away for a rainy day or for anything that happens, that's priceless. You cannot put a price on psychological comfort. Once you've done that, then move on to your high interest rate debt. So I say high interest, anything above 8%, because you could earn more than that in the stock market. So anything above high interest rate debt, then, or that's the amount that you earn on the stock market. So anything above that, pay it off. You're going to save more money if you pay that off than if you do anything else with it. Stay on that until you've paid off all your high interest rate debt. Then think about retirement, putting that money into your retirement plan. In the UK, you're automatically enrolled into it, into your workplace pension. Max that out until you fully get all the free money that's available to you from your employer. Once you've done that, so you've already started investing, you've got your savings, your months, now you've started the investing part. Then I'll say now you focus on your building your 3 to 6 month emergency fund. And that's 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses. This typically takes a long while for people to get to. That's not easy to save up 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So I try to say, as you build that up, also start putting money in towards investing on the side as well. Start small. And then after that, the way you design your life is completely up to you, what you want to do with your money.
One of the things I struggle with these days, looking at the world, is that young people seem to perceive success as, what can I show my wealth to be? What can I show my success to be? And so even to the point where you see people nowadays like posing next to cars that aren't theirs. Or the most ridiculous thing I saw the other day, someone sent it to me, was you could hire out a fake private jet and go and have photos.
It's like a trailer that the inside of it looks like a jet.
Exactly.
I've seen that.
But it does make me worry a bit about that for young people right now. Like, how do young people find success when I suppose they're comparing themselves to social media?
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible trend. Look at the desire to achieve status, lasting admiration and respect of your peers is a natural human and biological one. Apes have that, right? You like big physical prowess, chest pounding. It's how you set up a hierarchy in society, and it's actually very useful. The unfortunate thing is that many people think that you can buy that. They think that you can buy a fancy watch or a car and have all of a sudden achieved the respect and admiration of your peers. What you learn as you rise up and actually make more and more money is that the only people that are impressed by your fancy things are people that are way below you.
Yeah.
You are not impressing the people that you are trying to impress. Posing in front of a private jet or a fancy car impresses a poor person. It does not impress the wealthy businessman that you think you are trying to impress and gain the respect of, because they think you're a joke when you do that. When you post, if you post a picture or a video on a private jet, a person that owns a private jet does not post videos and pictures of themselves on a private jet, because they're using it for convenience and to save their time to get to the place. And so that realization that you're not impressing people, the people that you want to impress, and it's not lasting. They're just going to move on to the next thing. They don't actually have respect for you. The only way to earn lasting respect and admiration is to build the things that cannot be bought. A fit body confers more status than any amount of watches or cars that you can buy, because it is hard. You actually have to build it, and it takes a long time. And Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk cannot buy a fit body faster than you can get it. You both have to go to the gym. They might be able to get a personal trainer and a private chef, but they can't force them to do the workouts or force them to eat the plain food. It's the exact same. Same thing for a relationship. You can't buy a healthy, thriving marriage. It's built through hundreds of hard conversations and sitting in the mud with the person through challenging times. And we know this. The richest people in the world cannot buy a healthy relationship. They struggle with that, actually. It makes a lot of problems. So the things that actually confer the status that you want are things that have to be earned. They can't be bought.
And it's so true what you said about you're never impressing the person you think that you are. Because like, if you ever fly business class, the people who are taking loads of photos, they're the ones that stand out, as you know that they're either the first time they've been, or they're trying to make content to say that they are. Whereas most of the people who sit in those compartments of the planes, or even in first class, like, don't want to do that stuff. They are so far from it. And so I think that I often feel a bit bad for young entrepreneurs who do that stuff, because to the people that they truly want to like raise money from or impress or get as customers are going to be like, oh, I'm going to stay away from this.
Yeah. It's an enormous issue in the social media age, because there are a load of big influencers who have made a lot of money by posing in front of the private jet or the fancy car with the nice watch and saying it's so easy to make $1 million. Sign up for my Discord and course. And the way that they made $1 million is not the thing they're teaching you in the Discord or course. It's by selling you the Discord or the course. And it is not easy to make $1 million. I'm just here to tell you that. Million. It is very much not. You have to create a lot of value. And like, I hire young people onto my team now, and they'll come in and they're like, oh yeah, like if I'm not making $1 million by 30, I'm a total failure. Like, Okay, good luck. Like you are going to be in the top 0.01% of American household income at age 30. Congratulations.
Yeah.
You must have built something really, really cool, Mr. Whatever, copywriter, researcher, whatever the thing is now. I'm really looking forward to how much value you're going to create on this team in order to earn that and get to that level. Because again, you have to create enormous amounts of value to get to those things. It doesn't just poof into thin air. No one hands you money.
I used to sit on the board for a lot of companies, like in an advisory role. And it was especially the young sort of CEOs and founders. They would hear my story of selling Verb, which took, 12 years. 12 years of
sleeping in the office, grinding your ass
killing
off.
myself.
Yeah.
Anyone who knew me at the time would be like, he was a ghost.
Yeah.
Like super unhealthy, I worked myself to the bone, and it took 12 years. And I was consulting with these companies at that stage in my life a few years ago now. And I would often use examples of Verb. And, we sold Verb for 25 million after 12 years and still amazing outcome, right? And yet they were like, it's too long. It's too long. We want to go faster than that and like double the value. So I'm like, okay, so you want double the value in half the time. Like, what is so extraordinary about this? And they're like, but I also want work-life balance. I'm like, I don't know if these things go together. But it's that expectation that social's almost set for everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things that social media has done in terms of making education much cheaper, allowing people anywhere around the world to get access to the best information. But there are a lot of bad things, which I think the lower expectations associated with what is required to achieve the outcomes that you want. If there's one thing I've learned, and there's one thing that I talk about in the book, it's that every single thing you want in life is on the other side of something that sucks. And that suck could be 100 workouts and bland meals. That suck could be 100 hard conversations with someone you love. That suck could be hundreds and hundreds of hours of focused, disciplined effort and work. But no matter what, you have to pay that cost of entry to get to the other side of the thing you want. It's delayed gratification. It's hard now in order to have the easy later. And there's no cheating that. You can't get around that. There's no infinite money glitch. There's no hack. It's not crypto. It's not like any of these things. It's not real. And if you see someone that has achieved that, it is by pure stroke of luck. And there are going to be people like that. So then if those people get the most views and you just think that that's the standard, that's the reality, you're going to create this unbelievably false world, this like complete virtual reality in your mind about what it takes and what is required to get to the life you want on the other side.
I eventually got pressured into buying a nice car by my clients. One of them came in. She goes, if you don't sort out that VW Polo, I'm going to buy you a car and I'm going to charge you what it costs me to do it. And I had two clients who were very influential on me, and they trained. Sue trained at 9 a.m. every day. Then her husband David came in at 9:30. And they trained for 30 minutes each every single day of the week. And for that, they paid me £800 a month. And it was like my mum and dad coming in, my fitness mum and dad. And they were just so easy to train. And Sue would bring me in like leftover food from dinner. She'd bring in Tupperware. She'd be like, here's some lunch for you. She'd bring me in a coffee, whatever. It was almost like my break was with those two. But my gym rent was only £375 a month. So just those two covered my car and my gym rent. So everything else I earned from PT was take home. So they eventually said to me, you should get like a nice car. So I got like a nice Golf GTI. It's like loving it. So then when I went to Australia, I came back, I'd sell the car. And I think I lost like $7,000 on it. So any money I had saved, I lost. I even had to sell to WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Right.
Shafted me. I thought I'd be in pocket because of selling the car. I didn't look into the finance equation at all. It was so bad. End of 2016, I called my mum. I was at a Holiday Inn car park in Maidenhead. And I had £8 in the centre console. And I said, we need to swing by NatWest. My mum was like, why? I was like, I need to pay £8 into the bank. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So then when I got to Australia, in the onset, I signed my contract with Fitness First, and I could only afford 3 nights at a time at the hostel that I was staying in. So I had to check out every 3 days, sit in reception. I think it was 10 a.m. checkout, 3 p.m. check-in. Because I couldn't afford to put more money down to spend than 3 nights at a time. So then with the 3 days I was in the hostel, I had to onboard new clients to get cash for the next 3 nights, on top of food and everything else.
Okay.
So every day the receptionist would see me in reception every 3 days for like 6 hours. And one of them was like, why are you here? I was like, I can't afford more than 3 nights at a time. It's kind of my budgeting system. So that was a moment where, I was fine. But when we moved into our apartment, even though my mates were like, oh, things are going well on social media, I still didn't have enough cash. And then we moved in and they said to me, oh, you owe us $1,000. I was like, what for? They were like, we've bought the sofa, we've got all the cutlery, they just furnished the apartment. So even at 27, there was a moment where I had to message my dad.
Yeah.
Like, Dad, can I borrow 500 quid? And he ended up lending it to me. He goes, don't tell your mum. She'll get worried. Just don't tell your mum. She'll get worried. So then living with those 2 flatmates, within 6 months, my business took off. And it got to the point where I was probably doing about £4,000 a week.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd moved in with a guy that had to borrow money off his dad to get the sofa, to then living with someone. Well, I was like, I'll get this. And they'll be like, don't do that. Like, you're our mate. You're not supposed to be buying dinner for everyone. Sometimes they'd get a bit pissed off if I tried to flex.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll get this one, lads. I'm like, nah, stop that.
Do you think Gen Z tries too hard to look rich?
Yes. It's a means of, we're consistently trying to show up online. Everybody is looking at us. We're in the social media generation where we're used to flexing, showing off. And I think it's trying to mask a lot of insecurity that we have because we don't have a lot of things that other generations would have, like job security, housing, a degree that actually serves them a purpose, a job that's stable. So we have to sort of make ourselves look like we're fine. And I think that's just like culture on social media. And then it's up to you to escape that and realize, who am I doing this for? I used to be like that. I used to try and flex. I used to get all the, fake design. I really, really wanted to. But then I looked at myself and I was like, who am I doing this for? And why am I wearing this? And then it stopped making sense. And then I actually stopped trying so hard when I met more wealthier people. And I saw how they all dress.
Yeah.
Look at how you're dressed.
Well, I always find it when you see someone who's like doing the pose, they're posing next to a fast car, or they're posing next to or inside a jet, and so much of that stuff is fake now.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a set. It's
Yeah.
like a movie set,
Yeah.
And the thing that I know now is like, I didn't get wealthy that quickly. It actually took effectively 10 years to get to a point where I would say objectively I was really well off. But what I learned along the way is that the more and more people I met who were super successful, it was almost the inverse relationship. The billionaires that I spend time with who've invested in my companies before, like, you would never see them flex, ever. Like, just wouldn't even cross their minds. Whereas like all the young entrepreneurs who might, message me and reach out to me on social, their whole thing is a flex. And I would say that I would never have been the person that would have done or flexed. However, there was a moment in time where I was like pulled to the trying to show off
Like
with
what?
status symbols. So it sounds so lame now going back and saying this, but after I sold my first company, I went and bought one of the most expensive watches in the world
Okay.
so that I could wear it around and show that I had money. I wore it literally once. I wore it on my wedding day with my wife, which I'm glad that I wore it that day. Otherwise, it has sat in a safe since, and I've basically said to myself, I'm never wearing it again. And there's something about it which is like, when I sit down with my content teams and my teams, I say, like, how do we demonstrate value and education to people without flexing? Like, how do we do all of this stuff and show that we've been successful and that our way of thinking about life and business is the right way of doing it, and you don't have to try and show off about how much money you have. But it is really hard, because the content where people post and flex
It
works. Yeah, it really works.
It does.
And that's really challenging.
Everything we buy nowadays, if we wanted to, we could buy it on debt at the checkout. I feel like there's something I feel like that's such a bad thing to bring people up on. And I'm not going to name like company names, but I feel like if you're at the checkout and you can finance something immediately, I'm not sure what I feel about that.
If you can't pay for that thing outright in cash, you shouldn't be using debt to buy it. And exception is education
Right.
and property. But if you have that money available, then sure, use the credit cards to get the points, to get the rewards. But if you don't have that money to transfer immediately, then you shouldn't be buying it. That's how I see it.
So for someone out there who's thinking about credit card, good to have because you can benefit loads from the points, but don't be buying things that you couldn't otherwise afford.
Yeah, or making sure you're paying off that credit card every month in full on time. That is it. The moment you don't pay it off, that interest that is going to hit you, 18,
brutal.
20 hours, it completely outweighs all the rewards and the benefits and the bonuses that credit card's going to get you. Don't bother.
I mean, the smart consumer, I always think one of the real benefits of a credit card, I was terrified of them until my wife was like, no, it makes total sense. You can just set up all these like auto sends and stuff, you know. So we just use the BA Amex and pretty much everything in the business will go through it now. And then the business just auto pays it back and the benefit is huge. But I do remember once being like, looking at it being like, it's like 18, 20% on anything.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, well, it's just not worth any free flight points ever for that amount.
No, it completely outweighs it. You've got to be paying that off. And yeah, like you said, the automation, doing that routine makes it worthwhile.